The 2023 schedule for your Washington Commanders has officially been released by the National Football League, and today I'm going to be breaking down all 17 games from Week 1 to Week 18 with you here on the Commanders Report. Before we get into today's action, make sure you click that subscribe button. On tomorrow's show, I'm going to be breaking down all 17 games, and I'm going to be giving my official 17 games record prediction for the Washington Commanders. So make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when that video comes out. And we'll start off here with Week 1, starting off the season with kind of a cupcake here for the Washington Commanders at home versus the Arizona Cardinals, a team that many people expect to be maybe the worst team in the National Football League next year. They have a brand new head coach in Jonathan Gannon. Their quarterback, Kyler Murray, likely won't be in the lineup. In fact, he definitely won't be in the lineup, recovering from that gruesome ACL tear that he suffered last year. You got Sam Howell playing against a pretty bad defense, let's be frank, and it's a good time to get some confidence going for the second-year quarterback. Definitely think this is going to be a W in the win column for the Washington Commanders to start off their 2023 campaign. So go ahead, get into the comment section right now, and let me know, do you plan on going to a Washington Commanders game, home or away, during this season? Type Y if you think yes, or type N for no. Go ahead and when you get an ad break here on the show, this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, which means it's going to be that first comment right up there in the comment section. So whenever you get a second here, take advantage of that ad break time by going ahead and answering today's question. Then in Week 2, you go on the road here for the Commanders. You're going up against Sean Payton's Denver Broncos there. In Week 2, Russell Wilson's definitely going to be interesting to see how he does going into his second year here in Denver. Sean Payton is definitely one of the best offensive minds in the game, so it'll definitely be interesting to see how Washington matches up with one of the best teams here in the National Football League. Of course, Sean Payton is somebody that has spent many, many years fixing some of these teams. He groomed Drew Brees into one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Maybe I just think that it's just going to be a very interesting matchup to see if Russell Wilson can have a bounce-back season here in 2023. Then in Week 3, the Commanders take on the Buffalo Bills at home. That one's going to be a real tough one. The Bills have one of the best rosters in the National Football League. Of course, Sam Howell is going to have to compete with Josh Allen. Not an easy feat, but if they can come away with a victory there in Week 3, I think this team can get some confidence that they can beat anybody in the National Football League. Then you get to Week 4, another tough matchup here on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the best teams in the NFC. They are the presumptive favorite to win the NFC Conference once again in 2023. And, if the Commanders want to compete in the NFC East this year, they're going to have to compete with teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, and they did a pretty decent job against the Eagles last year, competed really, really hard. This team never quit against the Eagles. I really think it's going to be interesting to see how they match up against the Eagles next season. Then in Week 5, another home matchup here on Thursday night football against the Bears. Last year, they also played the Bears on Thursday night football. They got that matchup, that same exact matchup this year. It's going to be at home at FedEx Field. Justin Fields and that Chicago Bears team has really been building up their roster this offseason, and I think Justin Fields is ready for a breakout season in his third year as an NFL pro. So definitely interesting to see how Sam Howell and Justin Fields match up there. Then in Week 6, you go on the road to Mercedes-Benz there in Atlanta to take on the Falcons. They just drafted Bijan Robinson. I think that run game is going to be very, very potent in Atlanta, Georgia this year. Arthur Smith is kind of in the same boat here as Ron Rivera. They need to get things in gear after a couple of relatively slow starts there and as their tenures of head coaches, but I definitely think that'll be an interesting one as well. Then Week 7, you are at home against the New York Giants, your first matchup against the G-Men this year, and I definitely think if the Commanders are going to compete in the NFC East this year, you have to beat the Giants because the Cowboys and the Eagles have some pretty darn good rosters in their own rights. And speaking of the Eagles, you got to play them again in Week 8. So you have to play the Eagles twice in 8 weeks to start the season. And I think a lot of Commanders fans might chalk these two games up as losses, but I do think that Ron Rivera does a good job at getting this team juiced up to play teams like the Eagles. People just count them out. They love being the underdog. I think it's definitely possible the Commanders come away with an upset in one of those two games this year. So if you're excited for the 2023 season for your Washington Commanders, go ahead and click that thumbs up icon right now and like today's video. If you're already subscribed, liking every single video video is a great way to help out the channel. Really do appreciate everybody that clicks that thumbs up icon. In Week 9, you travel to Foxborough to take on Bill Belichick and his New England Patriots. The Patriots are definitely an interesting team because I would say they're probably one of the least talented teams in the AFC, but Bill Belichick always seems to get this team to be competitive. I think they're going to have a really good pass rush. Definitely Sam Howell's going to have a challenge here with Bill Belichick throwing all those different blitz packages that he likes to send towards young quarterbacks. That'll definitely be a test for young Sam Howell. Then in Week 10, you travel to Seattle in a really devastating environment there in Seattle with some really great, they do a great job there in Seattle with their fans, the 12th man, and it's going to be a tough matchup on the road. I was really hoping that the Commanders maybe could have got this one earlier in the year to kind of deal with that crowd noise early on, kind of get used to that. But you get them here in Week 10. That'll be a tough one because I think Seattle will be one of the better teams in the NFC this year, but I hope the Commanders can pull off an upset there in Seattle. Then you go on the road yet again, their third straight road game here against the New York Giants. You play them at home earlier in the season. I think if you get some confidence against those guys at home earlier in the year, you go into the Meadowlands thinking you can pull off another W here at MetLife. Then in Week 12, you got the Thanksgiving game this year. Yes, the Commanders will be playing on Turkey Day against the dreaded Cowboys. The last time these two met on Thanksgiving at AT&T, the Commanders just crushed them 41-16. Antonio Gibson ran all over the Dallas Cowboys defense. Hopefully history can repeat itself there on November 23rd, Thanksgiving Day. Then in Week 13, they go out and play the Miami Dolphins at home. And a big question mark with this game is, will Tua Tagovailoa, the Dolphins quarterback, be available? There's a lot of people that don't think that Tua is going to be able to stay healthy throughout the season. So I like to see the Dolphins later on in the year because they might have a backup quarterback playing for them. Then the Commanders get a late season bye here in Week 14, which is real nice because if the Commanders are in position to make the playoffs, it's nice to have a nice bye week here towards the end of the year to recharge those batteries and get ready for a playoff push. Then in Week 15, you travel to SoFi Stadium to take on the Rams. I think the big question with LA is the Matthew Stafford question. Is his arm going to hold up? It did not hold up last year, that's for damn sure. And if it doesn't again, they are going to be in trouble yet again and could be an easy victory towards the end of the season for the Commanders. Then Week 16, you travel to the Meadowlands yet again, this time to take on the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. I definitely think the Jets are one of the more interesting teams in the National Football League because, man, bringing in Aaron Rodgers with the culture that Robert Saleh has been able to cultivate there in New York. I'm not sure if just because there's other teams in the AFC that have played together for so many years, I want to see how that chemistry between Rodgers and those receivers pans out here in year one of this experiment, but that'll definitely be a tough win for the Commanders there in Week 16. Week 17, another tough opponent here in the San Francisco 49ers on the road, yet again getting 3 straight road games. So the Commanders have a couple of stretches of road games here, some road trips that are just kind of tough. And the 49ers, I mean, at this point in the season, you never know how injuries are going to shake out. Brock Purdy will most certainly be back from his injury, so it'll definitely be interesting to see how good the 49ers are at this point in the season. But as far as I'm concerned, I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. It's going to be a real tough W to get there in San Francisco. Then you finish out the season yet again. Last year, the Commanders finished out the year with Sam Howell delivering a victory over the Dallas Cowboys in his first career start. This year, to close out the season, they are going to be playing the Cowboys yet again, this time at FedEx Field. And I really think that the Commanders, if they need to beat the Cowboys here to make it to the playoffs, I think that's something that they want. I think that that's something that Ron Rivera's squad would absolutely would bring on themselves, and they completely just take that challenge on, and they would do whatever it took to get into the playoffs. Of course, that Week 18 matchup is incredibly important. So what will the Commanders' record be in 2023 in your opinion? Tomorrow I'm going to be breaking down the entire schedule and give my prediction, but today I want to hear your guys' takes here. How good do you think the Commanders are going to be? Do you think they'll be 9-10 wins? Do you think they'll get into the playoffs? Let me know in the comment section. Of course, again, tomorrow I'm going to be giving my predictions for the Commanders 2023 season. So make sure you click that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you know when that video comes out tomorrow.